you can find out lots of things about Danish days and maybe Danes themselves, and I always find it interesting when you go to different communities and they're Danish or Finnish or Norwegian or any of the number of different groups that came from kind of the same culture, same area, geographical area. But in South Dakota, they pop up as communities. Probably a lot has to do with language. But anyway, that's another story. We're going to be talking about festivals today. So welcome, Wendi, Kayla, and Kayla. We've got two Kaylas, Kayla V from Viborg and Kayla L from Leola. But Kayla L is Kayla Casey, and then Kayla Mehlhaf. Because all we have is Wendi and Kayla, so you know which ones they are. So let's start off, ladies, with you telling us kind of who you are, and maybe we'll start with the Leola group first. Who are you, and tell us a little bit something about you, so we know kind of who we're talking to. It looks like you recently graduated from high school, so
yeah.
So well, go ahead.
Sure. Good morning, Lawrence. I'm Wendi Hatlewick. I am the chairman of the Leola Development Corporation, kind of the backbone of Rhubarb Festival. I have 4 children. My oldest is 22 and my youngest is 13. So I have time. I have time to put in efforts to Rhubarb Festival. I'm also an elementary educator here in Leola, so community is very important to me. So,
I'm Kayla, and I've been in the community probably about 6 years now. I'm married to somebody from here, and we have 2 little boys, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I'm the treasurer. I just started this winter as the treasurer for the LDC, and then I'm the business manager here at the school as well.
Okay, good. And Kayla V.
Yes, that's me. So yes, Kayla Mehlhaf from Viborg, and I am the chairman of the Danish Days Festival. I took over that role probably about 4 or 5 years ago. There was a man, Paul Christensen, that had run Danish Days for probably 25 plus years, and he was ready to step down. So he helped for a couple years getting me ready for taking it over. So I've been doing that now for the last few years. And we live just outside of Viborg, my husband and 3 boys, 15. The middle one's turning 12 today. It's his birthday. And then the youngest one will be 1 next week. And I work in Viborg at the hospital. I am a nurse practitioner, and I've been there for about 13 years and have been involved with the community. I actually grew up in a town just about 15 miles from Viborg, Wakanda. That's where I graduated from, and have enjoyed community service when I was younger and have enjoyed doing it in Viborg. It's a great community to be a part of.
Great. I think we can establish now that all of you are well qualified for your roles. Yeah, you just are. Let's talk about, first, we have to say, when is your festival and where? Because sometimes they have festivals in like parking lots. But tell us where your festivals are and when they are, times and dates.
Who do you want to go first?
Oh, let's start with the Viborg first.
Okay, so ours is always the 3rd weekend of July. So this year it's landing the 12th through the 16th. And this goes on in Viborg, kind of all over in the community, different events that we have going on, but it's all located right in Viborg.
Okay, great. And how about Leola?
Leola's is June 23rd through the 25th, so it'll start on that Friday. Most of it takes place on Sherman Street, which is kind of our main street. Anything else?
Yeah, kind of the vendor show and the magician and everything are at the school, but otherwise pretty much on that main drag, I guess.
So if we came into Leola, we wouldn't miss. So we wouldn't roll up on somebody and say, "Where's the festival?" And they, huh? What? You know, people know. Okay, I mean, it's happened. You know, there are those people who they seem to never know what's going on anywhere. So can you put in your links to your to your festival and the dates? Maybe you can put it in the chat. You know, if you know how to do that chat thing, you click on the little chat button down the bottom and you can enter stuff in there. That way people can know how to more efficiently stalk you over during the your festival. So let's talk about the festivals, and maybe we can start with the Rhubarb Festival first. Tell us what the Rhubarb Festival is about. You know, what do you try to do in that? What can we expect if we go there?
Maybe we should introduce our mascot.
Yeah, first we will introduce our mascot because he is our mascot for Rhubarb Day. So here we have Rudy the Rhubarb.
Hello. He's so cute.
He'll be found all over town in the parade and at our local bake sale and rhubarb baking contest. Okay, so should we?
Yeah, let's run through the schedule a little bit. Friday night, we're going to start with, actually Friday morning, they're going to start barbecuing some ribs. So we're going to do a rib cook-off. And then that's going to be followed by bingo that evening. And then we're going to also have a huge basket raffle, and you're going to be able to start buying tickets right away on Friday through Saturday afternoon.
What's in the basket?
All kinds of stuff. If you've never been to a basket raffle, it's like the funnest thing ever. So people donate these little baskets, and like they have their little themes. So some of them do like a kid's basket with swimming or bubbles or just all kinds of things. Yesterday we picked one up and it was a barbecue basket. So it had seasonings and cutting boards and shredders. And so then you buy tickets, you put your ticket in the bag for the baskets that you want, and then we draw it and you could win a basket.
Okay. So that those baskets, they're made by different people, I take it.
Yep. Yeah. People, businesses.
Okay.
Donated.
So it's not like one grand basket.
No,
or something like that, like a lotto or something. It's like you have lots, and you could bid on more than put your ticket in for more than one basket.
Yes, you can buy as many. There's no limits to the amount of tickets you can buy.
Okay, that sounds fun. And so the theme of your festival is rhubarb.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, how did you come to rhubarb?
So we were looking into it a little more because I, just graduated high school, so I don't know much about it. No, I'm just kidding. So we looked into the history of it, and it started in 1972. Now there's a discrepancy because some say 1971, but I do believe it's 1972. So we are 51 years in of Rhubarb Festival. They chose rhubarb because we had a lot of it. We had more rhubarb. We had enough rhubarb for every woman, man, and child.
There was more rhubarb patches than there were people.
Yeah.
So well, that's a good reason.
Yeah. So it was self-proclaimed rhubarb capital of the world. Leola became, and they decided to start the festival. It started with. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You started with.
It started with a rhubarb baking contest. I think that was the first activity that they had, and there were judges, and whoever, of course, won over with their recipe, they would be either the king or queen. And now we have the king and queen. So male or female, you can submit your recipes, your baked goods. Was there anything else back then? Parade.
I was thinking, did they do the longest stock back then right away? I'm not sure, but we do have a longest stock. Did they? I think Rudy wants to visit as well. I think Rudy has
the rhubarb queen. It was different clubs selected a woman from their organization to be put up for Rhubarb Queen, and then they would have a contest, and the ladies would go on stage in the gym, and it would be a program and stuff with talent and stuff at that time. And that's how initially the Rhubarb Queens were picked before they went to the baking part.
Okay. Okay, interesting. We actually have a vinegar festival queen, a vinegar queen too. So the queen thing is that's that's kind of a thing, you know. Okay, so what else? You know, the longest stalk, and didn't you have like something about the biggest leaf or something
Yes.
like that too? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so people bring their leaves in and their stalks or whatever, their rhubarb stalks. And actually, Rudy wants to tell about that. Rudy's been around since 1971 or 72. So he knows.
I can tell by the wrinkles in his leaf that he.
Yeah. So he wants to tell you a little more about that contest. Go ahead, Rudy.
But the people pick their produce at home, the rhubarb leaves and stalks, and then we measure the stalk from top to bottom and see the length, and the leaves are measured the width of it, and whoever has the widest leaf and whoever has the longest stalk wins. And I think we give them $10 Leola bucks, I think, for prizes, I think.
$10 Leola bucks. I might try to find some leaves myself and come up with.
Okay, well, you're sure welcome.
I could use some Leola bucks. You know?
You are welcome to do that.
Okay, so how about Viborg? Tell us about, you know, what are you trying to do with Danish Days? How did it get started? Tell us about it.
Actually, it's been going on since Viborg was settled. So it started actually the 5th of June, which is Danish Independence Day. And so it used to be on the 5th of June. And I don't know when they changed that for sure, but just it was scheduling conflicts, lots of graduations, kind of a busy time. So then they moved it to that third weekend of July. And we've been doing that. I mean, as long as I've been around, it's been that weekend. But that's when it originally started. And so there's been some type of festival going on since Viborg was first started.
Okay. Did you guys have, in the early days, did you have like reenactments of Norwegian and Danish conflicts?
I don't know. I should ask some questions. Find out what they were doing those early days.
Okay, and tell us more about this the Danish days.
I would say probably some of the highlights of the very Danish things that we do. Friday night in one of the parks, we always have some live music, and then there's like the community club gives out scholarships. Our foundation gives out their grant money, and then we crown the oldest 100% Dane, king and queen, who are in the crowd that evening. And it is quite the competition to outlive all of your other Danes and be the last one standing. Yeah, it's quite an honor. Many have actually had that in their obituaries after they've passed, you know, that they were crowned the king or queen of Danish Days.
Wow, that is a thing.
It is.
Do you let them use like life extending drugs or anything like that? Do you disqualify
Yes,
them?
I mean, I'm their doctor for most of them, so you know I'm trying to.
So
keep
you could tell you do the blood test, right?
Yep, helping them out. Yep. Yeah, no. Last summer we actually had 2 ladies that were 89, and one beat the other one out by 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So now she's hoping this year, because you can't be king or queen twice. So then it moves on to the next one. So there is one lady that is really hoping it's her year.
Right. Do they ever try to knock each other off so that they can win? You know?
I'm sure they probably try to get the other one sick, because you have to be present.
Oh yeah, that's right. Or get them out of town on a ruse.
That's happened sometimes where somebody from out of town has shown up too.
That's right.
It creates a lot of conflict.
At that age, your dementia could set in. You could forget that it's Danish Days and make another appointment or something.
Could. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's happened. Well, let's go back. We have some. We'll go back to Leola, and we have some images that maybe our Dr. Colby could put up, so we can see like the kind of things that happens, and maybe Wendi and Kayla and Rudy could tell us what's happening in those pictures. going to try to put up the pictures once we get them up, and we'll be ready to go. And then we'll have Dr. Mehlhaf tell us what's happening in Viborg as well. We're still working on getting our images up here. Well, while they're doing it, because we got lots of stuff to cover, you have lots of different, let's say, parts to your festivals. Tell us something about how those parts come together. We'll revisit this after the images, but how do all of those different things bring people together? You know, what kind of things do people do together? How tell us about let's say it's the sociological mix. I don't know if that's too technical a term, but you know, like when people get together doing stuff, can you tell us about how that plays in your community? What happens? You know, what are the benefits or drawbacks of people getting together? Well, let's come back to that. We'll come back. I'll give you some time to think about it, you know, but let's talk about what's happening in the festival. You know, this is really interesting. This picture looks curiously like Rosalind, you know, and in place of Rudy, we actually have a pickle that and a red car, and we don't have a king, but we have the queen and her court. But anyway, amazing how these small towns have so much in common, including bare brick walls, you know. So tell us what's happening in this picture.
So this picture here is during our parade that starts at 10:30 on Saturday. In the picture here, we have the reigning Rhubarb King, Rudy, of course, in the middle, and on the other side, there is our Rhubarb Queen. Their recipe won. The judges loved their recipe, so they became king and queen. So this is our court. And our parade is usually, it's a good 20 minutes long. We have a lot of participants in our parade, so we're thankful for that.
What are some of the things you have in
Sure.
in your parade?
So some of the things we have in our parade are maybe like class reunion classes that get together, like high school classes. We have local businesses,
Snow Queens.
the Snow Queen, the reigning Snow Queens, junior and senior.
Yep. 4-H clubs.
Yeah, any club that you can think of, they will be in the parade. The fire department, they have many different rescue vehicles, so they take up a large portion of our parade, and they're known to squirt out some water if it's warm. We have, who do we have? Dakota Broadcasting comes in, and they're usually in the parade.
Horses.
Horses, Rudy, you name it. Classic cars. We have a classic car show. We have
The bucket train.
Lyle Shoneman with his, I don't know what you call it, some kind of train for kids. Yeah, it's a good time. It's a nice
Great.
parade.
Next one, yeah. What's happening here?
This is our car show. Local participants put in their vehicle, and we have a People's Choice Award.
Yep. We actually have 4 different categories this year. So we have a semi, a car, a tractor, and a motorcycle. And there's all People's Choice for every single category. So if you want a trophy, bring your cars down.
Bring your hot rod, your tractor, your semi, whatever.
And if you don't want wheels left after that, you can join the burnout contest.
The what contest?
The burnout.
Oh, burnout. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
You might not have tires at the end, but it'll be a good event to watch. Lots of smoke. It's noisy. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, somebody looks like they're having fun here.
Yeah, so here we have the fire department. They will be set up from 2 to 3, and they have games for kids and adults, um, hoping to look for that next fireman or firewoman. They get to play with the hose and move balls around and different things like that. So
Oh,
good time when it's warm. That's the
yeah,
place.
yeah.
So here, this is going to be a new one. We have it's Bubble Mania is what it is. And there's a truck that comes at 3 to 4 o'clock, and he squirts out bubbles and kids play in it. So it's a new
Oh,
event.
wow.
I'm excited about that, and it's free of charge. We're all about entertaining the children as well as the adults. So,
It looks like you'll have some clean kids.
yeah, we will have squeaky clean kids. And this here is our amazing Thad the Magician. He is also going to be new to our Rhubarb Days. He comes from Fargo, and his theme obviously is farming. So we're going to have a little bit of maybe learn a little bit about agriculture along with magic. So
Right, right.
we're
Oh,
excited
farming
for-
is magic anyway.
It is. It really is.
Any more? That's it? Okay, that's it. So let's go over to Viborg now and see what they're doing over there. Is Kayla still with us somehow?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, there you are.
Here, still here.
Yeah, yeah, okay, good. Can we put Kayla's images up on the screen? There we go. So what are we looking at here, Kayla?
Okay, so there is some traditional Danish dancing that they actually teach the kids at Vacation Bible School at one of the churches that's kind of known as the Danish church in town. So they just had Bible school last week. And so then the kids actually dress up after they've learned these dances, and they actually go up and perform at the nursing home. And then sometimes they've performed at Danish Days.
Mm.
So there was an adult group of dancers. I want to say that was probably at least 20 years ago, but it was a really big thing as far as the adult dancers. They would perform at Danish Days, but they would also go and perform at other local communities. I know they went down to Yankton, kind of all over the place down here in South Dakota, and would do as far as the traditional Danish dancing. So it's still something that they teach the kids, and they learn this every summer at Vacation Bible School.
I love those hats.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here now?
So this is some of the dancing that's happening. This was a couple years ago. This is actually our church, our Savior's Lutheran Church in town. So this is some of the church members. And actually this is during the parade, because they have their float that you can see there. And then they were doing the dancing through the parade.
Mm, mm, mm.
And these are a couple of the kids. This was actually, sometimes we've held a costume contest on Friday evening. And so then these are outfits that actually people have made. The three that are right in the middle, they're sisters, the ones in the red vest that are right in the middle, that their grandma actually made all of those for them for that. Yeah, and so grandma sewed those. But there's some other ladies in town that have made some of these, and some that have, you know, a collection of them. So then some of the kids, once they can fit into them, I think like the one over the girl in the red there on the end, I think that was one actually that maybe her mom wore, and now she wears it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
interesting.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very, very nice. And it's interesting to bring those costumes back. You know, I might have to order me one of those. That's it. That looks good. So thanks, Colby. So let's go back then. Well, before we go further, I want to open it up to our esteemed audience and panel here. Do any of you have any questions, comments, suggestions, criticisms? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Done. Okay, we'll move on. Can you tell us a little bit about what you hope that these festivals do for your community? I mean, these are 1, 2, 3 day events, but I'm gonna guess that since they've been going for years, that they've maintained some value. There's, you found some value in them. Tell us about that value. It doesn't matter who starts. How about
So
Rudy?
with our Rhubarb Festival, one purpose for the festival, and it's pretty obvious, one is to boost the economy. Rhubarb Days attracts lots of visitors, which boosts our economy, whether it be at the festival site or around town. And so that's important to us. A lot of our groups thrive off of the festival because they have their fundraisers at that time, with all of the extra people in town. So that is one very small reason why we have the festival. Obviously, it's a special time for Leola, and it evokes good feelings, and we hope it always does. And so I guess that's my why I like to help with the festival, is just that good old excitement of the festival, and to show my children that working towards something that is bigger than us is important. So rewarding. Yeah. So how about you?
Yeah. So when I grew up, we always had an annual event as well, and I just have really fond memories growing up and going to all the events. And so I want my kids to have that experience too in with Rhubarb Festival.
So in asking about that, taking off what you were saying, Kayla, what kind of results have you seen with your children, as far as their involvement or comments or things like that?
Well, for mine, this will be my son's first Rhubarb Days, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, but Wendi might have some.
So my children have grown up with Rhubarb Days. They've always been a part of it. My daughter is the reigning Miss Junior Leola Snow Queen, and so she'll be doing face painting for the kids. It's important for her to give back to our community and just show those kids that, she's a role model to look up to, and paint their faces and hopefully get some new new Snow Queen participants, because it's kind of a dying thing right now. Kids don't want to be in front of the stage or in front of audience speaking. So she's a good role model for that. My son, he is always participating in the Rhubarb Run. That's important. In the Rhubarb Run, the proceeds will go to our local food pantry. So yeah, my youngest daughter, she's kind of a young entrepreneur. She wants to start her own business. She has a cake pop business, so she's excited to sell her cake pops at Rhubarb Festival. So I mean, we're always looking forward to it. It's a biennial event, so it's every other year, because it takes a lot of work and dedication from volunteers. So, and I just throw my kids in there and make them help. So,
the one thing I think we can pride ourselves on is that it's affordable for everybody, because most of the events are there's no admission charge, so it's affordable to everybody.
Excellent. So you try to make it inclusive and draw more people in. Do you get more people from the outside coming in to learn about rhubarbs?
we do. We get people from all over. I mean, we have some that comment that they've traveled 6 hours to be here, and really no ties to our town. So that's exciting. I mean, we're always looking for new faces, and we all love meeting new people. So yeah.
Alumni, the vendors, I've got vendors coming all the way from Sturgis for the vendor show. So yeah.
And actually, someone moved here from out of state, and their connection to here was they were at our last Rhubarb Festival, had such a great time that they decided to pack up and move here.
Yay, that's our boy.
Amazing. So interesting about since it's a rhubarb festival, and every place in the U.S. anyway doesn't have rhubarb, and I imagine in other places in the world they never even heard of rhubarb. do you have anything of sort of an expose, or does your school do any kind of like science projects on the rhubarb, like like in our vinegar festival, we had kids before, when we had our school, we had kids do things like make paper from vinegar, and they, in the science fair, we had like 5 or 6 exhibits on vinegar. So I'm just wondering if you guys have like done that with rhubarb, and can we see that kind of thing in the festival?
We haven't, but I
was gonna
see
say,
that we could do something with
That would be cool.
in the future. Rhubarb is a vegetable. I don't know much about rhubarb. You need a lot of sugar to bake with rhubarb because it's very tart. It's bitter. We must have the right growing environment for rhubarb to thrive in our parts. But no, we don't really involve rhubarb in our school, but we should.
Yeah, I mean, because it seems like if it's big enough to have a festival, it would mean something. If the kids who graduate from high school, or even elementary or junior high school, middle school, when they graduate, if they know nothing else, they know everything about rhubarb. It's like
Sure.
they can regale you with the history of rhubarb, and all the things you could do with it. At least know 2 or 3 recipes, or what's the
Actually,
structure of it.
When we were reading yesterday, apparently if you put water and rhubarb into a pan that's dirty, like kind of like worn, it can clean it, and it can get stains out of clothes. Is that what we read? I don't know.
I might have to come up and get a truckload and just put it in my kitchen to see if it'll clean all the dishes.
Yeah, so I see some science projects building right there from rhubarb. That is a good idea. I mean, yeah, we could do better with that. The festival is about learning too, and so you really sparked some interest with me. Like, maybe we should have a little bit of tutorial on rhubarb.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing that, and my agent will be in touch with you for my commission.
Okay, for the it'll be the same as my paycheck, which is 0. So.
Right. So Kayla, can you tell us something about the Danish Days, and how does it play in your community? What does it do for the cohesion of your community?
I would say probably 2 things. So one is that it brings a lot of people to town that maybe originally were from Viborg, maybe they still have family here, maybe they grew up here, have some connection. And it's that once a year, everybody comes together and it's like a big family reunion. It's the time to come back. There's different activities that, we do every year that are just kind of staples that people look forward to. And just that reunion of, past and present community members, families. And then I would say the other thing is that different groups in town, just like the Rhubarb Festival, we have different groups in town that do certain things. And I would say that is one way that they all come together. Like our fire department is huge with Danish Days. They put on, as far as most of the food, the dances, they're very busy. I mean, it's a big other for the fire department. But there's other groups, churches that do lunches. There's, other groups that maybe will do different fundraisers throughout the weekend. So just like with the Rhubarb Festival, it's a good fundraiser for a lot of groups in town, but it's one way for all of those groups to get together and do something during Danish Days.
So do you guys still have your high school?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what do you do? I mean, the 2 things, when I was in Denmark, the 2 things that impressed me most, aside from the cute ladies, because that was a long time ago, was the Danish rolls and Danish cheese. And I'm just wondering if you guys, I mean, they even just call them Danish, but they have, in Denmark, they have lots of Danish, different kinds of Danish. So do you guys, if I come to your town, if I come to Viborg, can I like expect to like go into the coffee shop and say, I'll have two of those and two of those and get a nice Danish roll, or is it like, or well, am I more likely to get lutefisk?
Well, I mean, that happens usually once a year, but no, not on the usual anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So, no, I would say that a lot of the Danish things, there's not probably a lot of day-to-day Danish things that happen in Viborg, but this is one way that we bring back some of those traditions, like Abelskiver. That one's actually a traditional Christmas meal, but they're almost like little pancakes. You have to have a special cast iron pan that you make those in. And so they serve those up Saturday morning. One of the churches does a breakfast of the Abelskiver. And then there's the traditional open face sandwiches. I don't know if you had any of those when you were over in Denmark.
Yep. Those
yes,
are great.
very beautifully decorated with all the vegetables. And so we do an ethnic foods meal right after the parade. So that serves Saturday lunchtime. And there's quite a group that puts all of that together, making as far as the open face sandwiches and that whole meal. And then Friday night, actually just a few years ago, they started doing this, but Our Savior's youth group actually started doing this as a fundraiser for their mission trip that they were going on. And so they actually do the traditional Danish meatballs, frikadiller, and red cabbage. So they do as far as a hot meal then Friday night. So you get a little bit of a taste of some of those Danish foods over the weekend.
Okay, great. That's what I would be looking for. And it just seems like to me that was, a thing that I was hoping that they would have, and it would be a good draw. And it seems like you're right on that. And so that would give our esteemed panel some ideas about where to go and find out, at least for those open face sandwiches. And when I first saw that, I thought, oh, they have a hard time with getting bread here. So they only give you one on one side, But
they're trying to cut the carbs.
They cut the carbs, yeah. A low-cal sandwich, it's at least for carbs anyway. Okay, so give us a little bit of an idea of like the flavor by telling us any unique stories of something that happened, in one of either of your festivals. Did somebody get married there, or file for divorce right after, any interesting things that happen as a result of the festival?
Well, I would say that there is probably a good handful of people around in the area that probably met their spouse at Danish Days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably Saturday night at the tent.
Okay.
That'd be the place to meet someone.
Yeah. Saturday night at the tent. I'll be there.
At the tent, yes. There's this big white tent that the fire department puts up down by our community center. That's where they have all of their food. They have the dances, but that happens early in the week, coming up to Danish Days. And there's just this excitement that happens in town once that big tent goes up.
Okay. I could see how the advent of like open face sandwiches could stimulate desire, and culminate in a marriage, that things happen, the strangest ways. How about Leola? Do you guys have any interesting stories, anecdotes, or that you can tell about your festival?
I mean, one thing that we just already said was somebody came and visited Rhubarb Days last time, and they wanted to live here. That was a big deal for us. Like Kayla said, I'm sure many relationships were formed over Rhubarb Days at the dance. We have a dance usually starting at 8 o'clock, or maybe around the fireworks at dusk. I mean, that's romantic. So probably some relationships were formed there. I don't know of any, but I'm sure. Rudy probably has something because he's been here since 1972. Rudy,
I don't know any.
You don't know of any. Well, I would say if you're trying to encourage that marriage thing, when you're having a dance, play some Barry White music.
Okay.
that tends to stimulate that kind of interest. Um, Now I would like to turn to like what it takes to put these things together, because being a part of the Vinegar Festival, I know that it's not, it's not something you dream up on Friday night and have on Saturday morning. What goes into it? What are your struggles? What are the things that that you had to overcome? Any kind of stories that tell us something about what it takes to put these kind of festivals together.
So for us, it's finding people to want to be a part of it, to be a part of that planning and volunteering portion. I know there's always people willing, but time doesn't always allow for them to be at our meetings and such. Leola Development Corporation, which is also our rhubarb committee, has 13 members right now. We've had as little as Keenan, maybe 6
Yes,
sometimes.
exactly, yeah.
We have monthly meetings and we start really right after Rhubarb Days, planning the next one. We went to biennial because of, the lack of help with it. And we didn't want to get burnt out. We want it to be exciting every time we have one. So one of the downfalls would be not having as many community members as we would like, but they usually show up. Volunteers show up day of or throughout the year, just maybe not at our meetings.
Yeah, if you ask somebody, I feel like they're always willing to help if they have the time.
Yeah, asking is important. Yeah.
Some people say, I just don't want to go to meetings, but I'll be glad to help wherever I can.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme. People like look, I'm interested, I want to do it, but I'm not invested in it enough to sit through meetings, especially if you're doing like Robert's Rules of Order or any kind of thing. It's like, it's I have an idea, I want to say it. And then once I say my thing or give my thing, I want to go to my other thing. This isn't, it isn't such a high priority that I'm going to commit that much emotional or otherwise energy into it. But I do want it. I mean, you see that, I think, in lots of communities, certainly in ours, we have that. That brings around, and we'll get, I want to hear from Kayla too, Kayla and Viborg, but how about like the young people? What are you doing, or how has your efforts paid off or not paid off as far as getting young people to be involved in your efforts?
When you say young, what do you mean by young? Are we talking high schoolers? Are we talking like
high school or less? Yeah.
It's not easy to get them involved. I mean,
and they're really busy, I feel like, with
they are busy probably with their phones. I'm not sure. If we ask, we usually have a good group of kids that will help us, but it's all in the asking. Right. There aren't too many that would just step forward and say, I want to be a part of it. We don't have any younger LDC members at this time as far as high school age, but like I said, I make my kids help out, and when Kayla's kids are old enough, they will be helping out, and any of our LDC members, their kids also help out. So that's a tough one. It's a tough one. They do support us. They come and they have a good time. So
yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like at least they're participating.
Right.
And sometimes I find like especially with high school kids, you almost have to give not the individual something to do, but their group to do. It's like you say, hey, will you and your gang, your homies, would you guys like be willing to clean up, or would you be willing to set up the stage, and also showing them a new skill? In other words, you ask them to do something that they don't know how to do, but you're willing to teach them, and then let them do it. Those are the ones that I find that kind of work best. Kayla from Viborg, Kayla V. Can you tell us something about like how your community involvement? How do you manage that? You know.
I could echo exactly what Leola's saying with, people don't want to come to meetings. It's tough to find help, but if you ask people, they will help. We have probably a core group of about 10 to 12 of us on the actual Danish Days committee. But there's so many people that help throughout the event. I mean, it's not only us. We just kind of organize and put everything together. We, over the last couple of years, have really found as far as other groups to help with certain events. Like we do some inflatables Sunday night, kind of a fun night before our fireworks for the kids, and like the wrestling team comes and helps as far as putting those up and manning the bounce houses and helping tear them down. We have a volleyball tournament that happens Friday night. So then the high school volleyball team helps with as far as managing the volleyball tournament. We have one of our Danish Days committee members that puts it all together as far as organizing it and getting it going. And then they actually run the event that Friday night, just because there was, I mean, plenty of burnout that was happening, especially after our 125th event in 2018. And I think all of us on the Danish Days committee kind of went, oh my gosh, that was a lot of work. And so just trying to not overwhelm everybody, burn them out. And so we've kind of started to disperse a little bit with some other groups in town, and that's actually worked out really well.
Good. Especially those people who are like 125, they're probably a little slow.
Yes, they're a little tired.
A little tired of all of that. Okay, so were you going to say something else?
Nope.
Okay, so tell us about what it takes to put it together. How does it come together? What are your ingredients?
We luckily kind of do a little bit of the same thing every year. So there's already kind of a template put together that we just have to, make it all happen again. But usually we try to put as far as a few different things into it, just so it's not, getting stale, kind of same old. But yeah, we start planning right after Danish Days ends. We usually have kind of a wrap up meeting and go, well, what went well? What didn't go well? What should we change for next year? And then it's getting things planned, I mean, even starting in August of getting it planned for the following July. But we meet usually kind of sporadically over the winter, and kind of that core group that gets together to make things happen. And then it's usually this person will contact this group, and they're going to make sure that the volleyball gets set up and this person does this, and we kind of just divide and conquer. And usually then it gets busy, right about now, where we're trying to get some of the final plans put together and advertising, etc.
I want to open it up now to for one last shot for our esteemed panel to ask any questions, comments, suggestions.
I think there was a chat. They wanted us to
Oh.
mention Bonnie Gill, who was one of the first people involved with the rhubarb baking contest. And Mr. Rhubarb, maybe he knows more about her. I know that she has a cookbook for sale, and they're going to be selling it at our vendor show still this year.
And she was featured in the South Dakota magazine just this last month.
Yep.
She passed away last year.
At the age of 96. And they also have her rhubarb cookbook for sale. It's an ad in the South Dakota magazine also.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And she was one of our past rhubarb queens in the early days.
Okay.
Queen, right? Yeah.
Good.
So that's Bonnie Gill. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Anyone else have any questions, comments, or anything you want to add? Jennifer?
Yeah, I just want to ask a real quick question, which is, I know, Wendi, you mentioned that your salary is $0. I just wondered, for both groups, are your festivals an entirely 100% volunteer endeavor? Is there any kind of part-time employee of either of the festivals? Or
not for Rhubarb Festival. There is no employee. We're all volunteers. And I guess there's what do I always say? My why is just to see that excitement in people's faces on Rhubarb festival day, strengthening the relationships. It's also an outlet for me to maybe use my creative
Yes.
juices. Like,
If you check out our Facebook page, Wendi has done up all of those fancy posters.
yeah, so that's what I do in my pastime. It's kind of fun. I discovered a hobby of mine. I like to make posters. So yeah, we don't get paid. It's just all for the community, and we just live off of that high, I guess.
Yeah, that's the same for Danish Days.
Hmm.
No, nobody paid. We're all just giving our time.
Mhm. You know, I think sometimes monetary payment is overrated. You know, it's kind of like one of those money guys once said, if you went to your grandma's house for Thanksgiving and you offered to pay her $20 for the dinner, she would not be happy. You know, because I mean, that's not why she did it. She wanted something more important than that $20. You know, even though it's worth $40, and if you went to a restaurant, but it's not really. That's not the exchange. That's not the currency. You know, and sometimes the currencies that are most important to us, especially when we're building communities, are those intangible, not really measurable currencies. And I think we forget that, and we forget it actually at our peril. You know, we really should remember that. Let's talk about what you want to do to improve the festival in the future. Going forward, what are the kinds of things that you could see that could improve your festival in one way or another? Can you talk about that?
For Rhubarb Festival, I haven't been in it for 50 years. I'm kind of a newbie into the festival. I would like to see it be an annual thing. I know some of our more people that have been in it for 20 years are like, no, we don't have it in us. Well, Kayla and I are really excited about it. We're like, annually would be great. And so moving forward, maybe we'll just downsize it a bit next year. Still have fireworks and a dance, and
Which
maybe
they
have
usually, yeah.
other activities, maybe not as big, but that's something we could improve on, something we would like to do. This year we've added in a lot more kids events. I mean, I just feel like if we keep the kids entertained, the adults, will also have a good time. So we have those. We decided to bring in the bubbles and the magician. We have laser tag that is new this year. Mini golf. We also have mini golf, and all of this is free of charge. So we're excited to see the results of that. I mean, it's great to see the kids' faces having a good time and parents being able to have a good time because their kids are entertained. So that's one way that we're improving and hopefully continue to do that in the future.
You bring up a really important point is, parenting has never been easy, but I think it's harder today than any time that I can see in history, mostly because society is changing so fast and what kids need to go forward is so much different than what their parents have experience with. And so parents really do need help in trying to do something to be with their kids and be entertaining with their kids. And people talk about, they lament about the kids being on the phone, but actually that's because life as they know it is kind of boring, as their parents know it's kind of boring to them, and that happens when you get more education and more opportunities. It's the natural result of that. So I think parents can have a real hard time trying to compete with that. So if you have these kind of activities, especially small ones, that the parents can, they can be involved with too, it just seems like that's a plus for everybody going around. Viborg, Kayla.
Yes.
What do you want to see in the future? In more Danish rolls, open face sandwiches.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we keep the Danish parts of Danish Days. There's always a struggle with volunteers, and it gets really hard as far as making some of these things happen. Like our ethnic foods, we've kind of been back and forth about you know, it's expensive to put on, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's really hard to give that up because we don't want to give up all the Danish parts of Danish Days. Otherwise, what are we celebrating? And so I want to make sure that we keep those things, the Abelskiver breakfast, the ethnic foods, you know, the king and queen, having some of the Danish dancers, making sure that we keep the Danish things happening. You know, we even had one thing for a couple years. We didn't put it in for this year, but we've actually had an Abelskiver eating contest. That was very entertaining.
Mhm.
It's really tough to eat a lot of those in a minute, but there's
That's true.
one man, he's a reigning champ for 3 years. He's what, 70 something? Yeah, but he is the reigning Abelskiver eating contest man.
Okay,
And
what
do-
is
do-
it that they're eating?
Okay, so Abelskiver, they're almost like a little pancake.
Oh, that's what you were talking about earlier. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
like those little pancakes. Yes. So then we put those out, we give them a minute, and boy, they can sure shove them in pretty quick. But
And you can watch them blow up as they're eating.
yeah. Uh-huh.
As you're eating the apple skeevers. Excellent. Well, we're coming near the end of our beautiful session here, and I want to remind people to copy that chat so you can see you can keep track of the dates and days. And I think you both have Facebook things, right? And do you both have websites too? So
We
you
do
can.
have a website.
You do not have a website, but you have a Facebook.
Mhm.
Okay. So I would say, you know, like if you, in case you're wondering, down at the bottom of the chat, when you click on the chat thing, on the bottom of the chat, there's 3 little dots. If you click on those 3 little dots, there'll be a drop down, and then you can copy that to your computer and spread it around too. You know, I mean, a lot of times people say, "Oh, there's nothing to do in South Dakota. It's so boring." You know, you're boring. You know, there's lots of interesting things to do. You know, you just have to get out and do it, you know. So and I hope that people will consider both of these festivals, and of course the International Vinegar Festival, which is on Saturday, 10 to about 3. But you should get there about, you know, as early as you can, because when we get started, we're on a roll, and we don't mess around too much. Well, this is the end. Thank you very much, Wendi and Kayla. It's been wonderful, and I wish you all the success on both of your festivals. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and tune in next week. Same time, same station.